But in our first hour, I want to ask the question, and this, I think, is very timely and very important right now, are we asking the wrong question when it comes to how to stop terrorism? Are we just asking the wrong question altogether? You know, the Netherlands are going to immediately begin using full-body scanners for flights headed to the United States. They say they're starting this tomorrow or today to prevent future terrorist attacks like the Christmas Day attempt by a young Nigerian. They, by the way, have said that this Christmas Day terror plan was professionally done. Some interesting backstories about a wealthy-looking professional Indian man escorting this young Nigerian man through customs in Amsterdam. So apparently this is, you know, if these reports are to be believed, and these are just eyewitness reports of people who are on the plane, then this may be larger and more professional than has been characterized, and you know that may suggest that there's more coming down the pipeline. So we're going to come up with full body scans. Now let me just ask you for a minute here. I mean, just think about this. How would drug smugglers move heroin through an airplane whose passengers are scanned with full body scanners? I guarantee you, as you are listening to my voice this very moment here on, Wednesday, December 3rd, as you are listening to my voice, somewhere in the world, somebody is moving heroin through an airport in a way that a full-body scanner or a pat-down would not find. They've been doing it for decades. How do they do it? Stick in a couple of condoms and swallow it? Put it in their butt if they're a woman, put it in their vagina. It's body cavities. Body cavities are not searched by these scanners. Do you really think that terrorists haven't figured out that if you can fill a condom with heroin, you can also fill it with the explosive powder PETN? And the amount of PETN that this kid had sewn into his underwear was in the neighborhood of what a typical mule, a typical heroin or cocaine smuggler, is bringing into the United States in their guts or other body parts in condoms. I mean, it's like they came after us with box cutters, and so we said, okay, you can't have toenail clippers. Well, what, you think they're going to continue to come after us with box cutters? The whole box cutter thing really was a result of back in the 70s when we had a rash of hijackings in the United States to Cuba. There was a move in Congress to try to harden the cockpit doors like El Al does. I mean, if you've ever flown in and out of Israel, and I have many times, or for that matter, even Egypt is doing this on a much smaller scale, but particularly in their flights to Israel. What you find is that they're doing psychographic testing. They ask you a couple of questions, and if you give the wrong answer, they nail you. That is, they take you out of line, and then you get seriously searched. We have somehow, and again, back to the 70s, so at that time, Congress said, well, why don't we just harden the cockpit doors like the Israelis do on El Al? They've never had a plane hijacked. And the airline industry said, oh, but that'll cost $10,000 an airplane. We don't want to spend the money. And the reason those guys were able to hijack planes was because the cockpit doors were not hardened. So now we've hardened the cockpit doors, but you still can't take a knife on a plane. But you can't get into the cockpit. I mean, it's like, so now we're going to say, okay, now you've got to have your hands in your lap. I mean, come on, this is absurd. This is kabuki theater. If drug smugglers can move heroin across borders, and they do every day in huge quantities, then terrorists can move PETN across borders just as easily. How about we just stop our overseas wars and become energy independent, so we're no longer needing a military presence in a part of the world that bites back, so that we're no longer needing having soldiers in the Middle East. You'll recall when Osama bin Laden first warned us back in the 90s that he was going to attack us. It was the result of there being American soldiers stationed in Saudi Arabia left over from George Herbert Walker Bush's war on Iraq, which arguably him and his April Gillespie, who was the station chief or whatever she was there in Iraq, she basically, Saddam Hussein came and said, hey, we want to take back Kuwait. They're slant drilling into our oil wells. It's nasty. We don't like it. We want to stop it. We're going to take they used to be one of our states. We're going to reclaim them. Do you got a problem with that? And April Gillespie reportedly said, nah, it's whatever you do is whatever you do. And so he invades Kuwait, and all of a sudden, hey, they're throwing baby resuscitators, incubators into the trash and killing. It was all made up. It was the daughter of the ambassador to the United States from Kuwait who was making up stories, literally lying to the United States Congress in order to get us involved in this war in Iraq so that George Herbert Walker Bush could be a war president and gain political capital. And make no mistake, that's what it was all about. That and maintaining control over a good chunk of the world's oil supply. But frankly, why do we need the control? We could have just bought it from Saddam Hussein. But Saudi Arabia, Bush Sr. talked Saudi Arabia for the first time into allowing American troops to be stationed there. And in 1998, Osama bin Laden said to us, it is a sacrilege that American men are watching pornography and American women are driving and walking around in their shirt sleeves on Saudi soil. Get them out of my country or I will attack you. I mean, do we really think we're going to stop terrorism without stopping the cause of terrorism? When the British were confronted by the Irish Republican Army, they used good police tactics. They didn't shut down, they don't have a constitution, but they didn't shut down the equivalent of constitutional rights in England. What they did is they used good police techniques and they started trying to figure out what the problem was and work it out with the IRA. And they've now largely resolved that problem. Same with the Basques, the ETA in Spain, although there was a recent incident, it was probably around the margins. The same with the Red Brigades in Italy. The same with in Germany, the Baader Meinhof gang. I mean, the whole bunch of them.